Alright, so if you've been paying attention to the smartphone world lately, you've probably heard about HarmonyOS, Huawei's own operating system. For years, Android has been the undisputed king of the smartphone world, powering well over 70% of smartphones worldwide. However, with the rise of HarmonyOS, the game might be changing and it could become a real threat to Google's Android. So in this video, we'll take a closer look at HarmonyOS, how it compares to Android, its pros and cons, and whether it really is a viable alternative. By the end of the video, you should have a good understanding of the key differences and similarities between these two operating systems, and you can decide which one might be right for you. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty details, let's take a quick look at the background of each operating system. Android was developed by Android Inc., a company founded by Andy Rubin, Rick Miner, Nick Sears, and Chris White. It was launched in 2008 and quickly became one of the most popular mobile operating systems thanks to its open-source nature and customizable features. Today, Android is owned by Google and powers over 70% of smartphones worldwide, including devices from Samsung, Xiaomi, Huawei, Google, Motorola, and more. HarmonyOS, on the other hand, was developed by Huawei and was first released in 2019. The idea behind HarmonyOS was to create a unified operating system that would work across multiple devices, including smartphones, tablets, wearables, TVs, and IoT devices. This was done as an alternative to Android after the US restrictions on Huawei in 2019, which prevented them from using Android and Google services. Now that we know the basics, let's talk about some of the similarities between these two operating systems. First off, both Android and HarmonyOS are built on top of the Linux kernel, which means they have a lot of the same underlying code and functionality. They both support a wide range of devices from budget to high-end, and they both allow for a decent amount of customization. For example, Android lets you change your wallpaper, icons, and even install custom launchers, while HarmonyOS lets you customize your home screen and even adjust the font. Additionally, both operating systems have a robust app ecosystem. Android has the Google Play Store, which has over 3 million apps, while HarmonyOS has the Huawei App Gallery, which has over 200,000 apps. Although the App Gallery doesn't have as many apps as the Play Store, it's growing rapidly and has all the major Chinese apps like WeChat, Weibo, and TikTok. Finally, both operating systems emphasize security, speed, and multi-device connectivity. Alright, now that we've covered the similarities, let's move on to the differences. There are several key differences between Android and HarmonyOS, and they can be divided into 4 categories: ecosystem, App Store availability, user interface, and performance. The first category, ecosystem. Android has a much broader and deeper ecosystem than HarmonyOS. This means that there are more devices available, more apps and services available, and more people using it. Most Android devices have access to Google services like Gmail, Google Drive, and the Google Play Store, which makes it easier for users to sync their data and use the services they're accustomed to. HarmonyOS, on the other hand, is still relatively new and hasn't been adopted by many manufacturers yet. It's primarily strong in China, where Huawei has a dominant market share, but outside of China, it's only available on a few Huawei and Honor devices. So if you're looking for a device that uses HarmonyOS, your options are currently limited. Also, since HarmonyOS is primarily designed for Huawei devices, it doesn't have the same level of integration with other devices like Google Assistant does with Google devices. For example, you can't control your HarmonyOS device with a Google Assistant-enabled device. The second category, App Store availability. As we mentioned earlier, Android uses the Google Play Store, which has over 3 million apps. On the other hand, HarmonyOS relies on the Huawei App Gallery, which has a fraction of the apps available on the Play Store. This could be a problem for users who rely on specific apps that aren't available on the App Gallery. However, Huawei has been working hard to address this issue and has formed partnerships with several companies to bring their apps to the App Gallery. For example, they've partnered with Spotify, Twitter, and the New York Times to bring their apps to HarmonyOS. Additionally, Huawei has a program called Pedal Search that allows users to download apps from third-party app stores directly from their phone. So while the app gallery doesn't have as many apps as the Play Store, it's still possible to download most apps on HarmonyOS. The third category, user interface. Android offers a variety of UI skins depending on the brand. For example, Samsung's Android devices use One UI, Xiaomi's devices use MIUI, and Google's devices use stock Android. This means that the look and feel of Android can vary widely depending on the manufacturer. HarmonyOS, on the other hand, has a more unified design. It uses Huawei's EMUI skin, which is similar to iOS in terms of aesthetics and functionality. For example, it has a control center just like iOS, and the app drawer is also similar to iOS. While some people might prefer the flexibility of Android's UI customization, others might appreciate the consistency of HarmonyOS's UI. Additionally, HarmonyOS has a feature called Super Device that allows users to connect and control multiple devices from one screen. For example, you can connect your phone to your laptop and use your phone apps directly on your laptop. This feature is not available on Android, but it's likely that it will be implemented by other manufacturers in the future. The fourth category, performance. Android has been around for over a decade, so it's had a lot of time to be optimized. Generally, Android devices are highly optimized and perform well, especially high-end devices. However, performance can vary depending on the hardware and manufacturer customizations. For example, a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra will perform differently than a budget Samsung device. HarmonyOS, on the other hand, uses a microkernel architecture that Huawei claims is faster and more efficient. This means that it takes up less memory and processes tasks more quickly. Additionally, HarmonyOS is designed to work on a wide range of devices, including low-powered devices like smartwatches and IoT devices. And it's optimized to work with Huawei's own chips, such as the Kirin 9000. This means that HarmonyOS performs very well on high-end Huawei devices. However, it's unclear how it performs on lower-end Huawei devices. Overall, both Android and HarmonyOS are highly optimized and perform well. However, if you're looking for a device with the best performance, you'll need to look at specific devices rather than operating systems. Alright, so now that we've covered the main differences, let's talk about the pros and cons of each operating system. We'll start with Android.pros. Huge app library. Android has a massive app library with millions of apps available through the Google Play Store. These apps have been developed specifically for Android and offer a wide range of functionality. Additionally, Android supports side loading, which means that users can install apps from third-party sources. Strong Google ecosystem. Android has a strong integration with the Google ecosystem, which means that users can easily sync their data and use Google services like Gmail, Google Drive, and the Google Assistant. This can be a major benefit for users who already use Google services. Wide device support. Android is supported on a wide range of devices from budget to high-end, and from different manufacturers. This means that users have a lot of choice when it comes to selecting a device that meets their needs and budget. Cons. Fragmentation between brands. One of the biggest cons of Android is the fragmentation between brands. This means that different Android devices can have different versions of Android and different UI designs. Additionally, some features might be available on one device but not on another. This can be frustrating for users who are looking for a consistent experience across devices. Performance varies on budget devices. Another con of Android is that performance can vary on budget devices. Some budget devices might struggle with basic tasks like multitasking or might have slow uploading times. This is because Android is designed to work on a wide range of devices, including low-end devices. Alright, now let's move on to HarmonyOS.pros. Multi-device ecosystem integration. HarmonyOS is designed to work across multiple devices, including smartphones, tablets, wearables, TVs, and IoT devices. This means that users can seamlessly move between devices and pick up where they left off. Additionally, HarmonyOS has a feature called Super Device that allows users to connect and control multiple devices from one screen. Smooth UI and performance. HarmonyOS has a smooth UI and performance, especially on high-end devices. This is due to its microkernel architecture, which is designed for speed and efficiency. Additionally, HarmonyOS is optimized to work with Huawei's own chips, such as the Kirin 9000. Independence from Google services. HarmonyOS is independent from Google services, which means that Huawei devices are not affected by the same restrictions that other Android devices are. For example, Huawei devices can still access Google services in China, even though Huawei is on the US trade blacklist. Cons: limited global app support. HarmonyOS has limited global app support, which means that not all apps are available on the app gallery. This can be a major drawback for users who rely on specific apps that aren't available on HarmonyOS. Small market share outside China. Another con of HarmonyOS is that it has a small market share outside of China. This means that there are fewer users and fewer developers supporting HarmonyOS, which can lead to fewer apps and less support. So which one should you choose? If you want a global ecosystem, millions of apps and deep Google service integration, then Android is the clear choice. But if you're already invested in Huawei's ecosystem like you have a Huawei watch, smart TV and other IoT devices, then HarmonyOS will give you a seamless all-in-one experience. Alright, so that's our breakdown of Android vs. HarmonyOS. One is the global leader and the other is the ambitious challenger. Which one do you prefer? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more tech videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time.